spread the fire and welcome to the first SMWX election debate. We're kicking it off with Tasneem Motara, who is spokesperson for the Gauteng ANC and a current member of parliament, Siviwe Gwarube, who is the head of communications for the DA, and Peter Keetse, who is president of the EFF Student Command. We're going to ask our guests to give a 3-minute summary of why they believe you should be voting for their parties, and then we'll get into a debate. Can't wait to kick it off. Thank you all so much for joining me. It's really wonderful to have you here for this debate. Tasneem, I'm going to kick off with you. We're going to ask, why should young people vote for your party in this election?
South Africa is not just not an African powerhouse. It also plays in the global space. The complexities are both historic and current, and as a result of many, many years of injustices. You need a leadership with the skill set and the foresight and the vision to be able to resolve the current problems, but also put South Africa in a position that places it not only in the African space, but at a global arena to be able to hit above its weight, but also play in a space that places Africa at the global stage in which it deserves to play in. So you need to have leadership with the foresight, the capabilities to be able to balance those. And I think the ANC does, as an organization, does have that skill set, but also does have that vision for South Africa. Another reason why young people specifically should vote for the ANC is that the ANC not only understands where we are, it understands where we come from, and has a vision to be able to resolve, like I said, some of the very, very complex and critical problems that face us as a country. Not only psychosocial problems, environmental problems, economic problems, but also specific problems that are only faced and that only South Africa can understand. We remain relevant. We remain a relevant organization. And we an organization that is willing to listen and willing to learn from its own mistakes. We're the first to own up to many of the problems that South Africa faces as a result of possibly decisions, possibly policy decisions and directions that have been taken over the past 25 years. Okay. And we're the first organization to be able to own up to them and look at corrective measures and be able to put ourselves in a position that will see us correcting our own issues.
Sure. Thanks a lot for that opening statement. We'll continue with the opening statements and move on to Siviwe. If you could just outline why you think young people should be voting for the DA.
Yeah, I think it's quite important when young people are considering which political party to vote for to understand what it is that the DA is offering them. We are premising our entire election manifesto in 2019 on the idea of building one South Africa for all, which is premised on 5 key strategic themes, which are fair access to jobs, an honest and a professional police service, fighting corruption, speeding up the provision of basic services, but also ensuring that we provide leadership on securing our borders and fighting illegal immigration. So those are the 5 key things that the DA is committed to saying that we understand, having gone through to every corner of the country and engaging with South Africans, we know that these are the things that are top of your list. But it's important for also young people to understand that we are an organization that is dynamic, that is forward-looking. We have a party leader that is under 40 years of age, who is leading an organization that has thousands of public reps, millions of South African voters. He has managed to take the party from just being a party that was at 22% in the last national elections, but also to say that we have now in the last local government elections, we took over 3 metros, including Tshwane and the city of Joburg. So we've got a leader that is dynamic and that is young, that has really created an alternative to the governing party and has created a footprint over and outside of the Western Cape. But it's just not limited to that. I mean, you look at our mayors, you look at our members of parliament. We're the only political party right now that has a very diverse list of people that are going to parliament. Over 23% of the people that are going to parliament in this after these elections are people who are under the age of 35. And so we are not only walking the talk when we're talking about involving young people at the decision-making table, but we've proven it. We've given young people a space at the table, a space to lead, and so we've got a credible offer. We've proven ourselves where we've governed, that we are really prioritizing youth unemployment, and also we are leading quite
Right.
fiercely.
Thanks very much for that opening statement, and we'll now move on to Peter Keetse for your opening statement on why young people should be voting for the EFF.
Well, I think as the EFF, we must appreciate and understand what led to young people to disengage from participating in electoral process. And obviously one would say it's because of what they've been promised before and not being implemented eventually. Young people, they are very dynamic in thinking, and they want things to be done, right? You don't promise them and you don't deliver at the later stage. And that's why they're like, no, but these politicians are the same. They've been promising us this, that, and none of them have ever came back and delivered on out. So that is why young people are really staying away from the polls. But what the EFF has offered since its own inception, and which is why we have seen the significant increase of the voter registration turnout, particularly on young people, it shows that the EFF, since 2014, we occupied parliament. There is a huge impact that we have made in South African politics, and as a result, we are seeing gradually young people are starting to come on board. We have also seen that in institutions of higher learning, when we won a lot of SRC elections across the country, not just in one province, but in all provinces, was that presence of the EFF Students' Command in as far as the young people are concerned. Yeah, we say they must vote for us because we want to make sure that they own their own future. The future of young people, it is in their own hands, and we will never get tired to teach them these things, because once you don't teach them, they feel like everything is just okay, and this is how we are supposed to live, right? So we also need to reintroduce the concept of education. We must make them to unlearn some of the things they have learned, these young people, so that we don't have a problem of them understanding where the country is and where it is going, of course, right? And the other thing, young people are unemployed, many of them, and I think that is one of the underlying factors. Young people are unemployed, it's a fact, and there must be a job creation. The state must create its own capacity. It must have its own engineering firms. It must have its own, legal law firms that they finance, right? So they must have all these other sectors that are in the infrastructure, companies, so that when we develop South Africa, we do away with the tendering system, and as a result, we are able to absorb young people to come and be employed in the spaces where the government is in charge.
Thanks very much, and thanks to all of you for laying out your views on why you believe young people should be voting for your parties. Now we want to really try and engage in a debate here, so I'm going to ask you to respond to whatever you feel needs to be responded to with the other parties, and Siviwe, I'm going to start with you, and let's see how you feel your party is different from some of the other offerings that are available to young people in this election.
Absolutely. I think what is also crucial for us to understand is that one of the biggest offering that the DA has really put on the table, which none of our opponents, as I've said, have really managed to do, is one, we are a truly diverse and non-racial organization, and we take pride in that. All of our opponents and the opponents represented on this table have all been given up on the idea of building a non-racial South Africa. And so that is quite because both the EFF and the ANC have really become a uniracial organization. So that is the one thing. And the second thing, I think, which is quite important to remember, is that the ANC has had 25 years to turn this country around from our painful history of apartheid. And even within the ANC now, you get people who are talking about the 9 wasted years, you get people who are talking about the new dawn, and the reality is that the people on the ground and South Africans are yet to feel the difference of what a change in the leadership in the ANC has really brought. And so what we are saying is that the ANC is but the same broken bus with a different driver. We are not buying into this notion that there is a new dawn. And we're saying to South Africans, give us a chance to turn this thing around. We have shown where we govern that we can. We've governed in the Western Cape for 10 years, and we, on every single marker, have shown that we're creating jobs, we are running clean governments. And so we are saying that let's emulate that example across the country. We cannot afford to give the ANC another 5 years so that they can turn around and say that was another 9 or 5 wasted years.
Okay, Peter, you accused of being a uniracial organization.
Yeah, look, I think perhaps we must start with the question of the skill. I heard my sister this side saying they have experience, they are skillful, and they can run government. And I tend to disagree that we only run government with skilled and experienced people. When the ANC took government in '94, majority of those people were not skilled. They did not even have any experience of running government. It was the first time they were experiencing it, and they must allow the EFF government to come and really take charge with this government. And also, right, the problem that we might be missing here is that when you run government, you run it with capable figures, capable people, right? If for instance you are going to put a CEO of ESCOM through a cadre deployment, then it's a problem. Instead of getting someone with experience in those expertise, an engineer who understands how to generate power and to sustain all these things, considering economics and economic being considered economical. In other words, being frugal, right? Because this is state resources. So what we are saying as the EFF, we are going to take government, and that is a fact, right? We are going to run this country, and we are going to employ people according to based on their skills, based on their qualifications, based on what one can do, not how one voted or how one is carrying a membership card. The other question on the race one, on the diverse of our own political party, just quickly, we are a very diverse organization. We have an SGUs an Indian, we have a DSGUs an Indian too, right? We have white people, many white people as our members. But I want to problematize and perhaps rubbish is what the DA has been saying in Western Cape. I mean, when you say you are a diverse organization, but when you look at Khayelitsha, when you look at Philip, when you look at all these townships in the Western Cape, not only in Cape Town, even outside Cape Town, black people continue to suffer there under the government of the DA.
Okay, you've made those points forcefully, Tasneem. You've been criticized from both sides, as all our guests have been. What's your response to some of what's been said about the ANC?
Okay, I think it's difficult to argue with the EFF because they constantly contradict themselves. In the first instance, he's saying that the when the ANC governed in 1994, we didn't have experience, we didn't have skills, but we did it anyway, and we must allow the EFF to do the same. Whether or not they have the skills or experience is immaterial. But in the same breath, he says that the EFF does have skills and experience. So do you need skills and experience or don't you? And I think the EFF must decide which side instead of contradicting themselves. And I'm saying that yes, the argument that is now, why should you vote for the ANC is because over 25 years we've developed the experience and the skill set to be able to resolve the complexities that South Africa finds itself in. There is not one city manager, there is not one DDG or a senior manager appointed or employed in the public service who doesn't have experience or skills. So they may be developed out of being cadres of the organization, but they have professional skills. They do. On the issue of whether we are a uniracial organization, I think it's a very unfair comment to make. Helen Zille's first cabinet, when she came into power as the Premier of the Western Cape, was full, all male, all white. So not only is the DA not open to other races, but they're also a very chauvinist organization. And they've proven it time and again. The lady to my left, Siviwe, speaks about what they have done in Tshwane and the city of Joburg in such a short space of time. Instead of owning up to the failures of your former mayor, they removed him from office very, very quickly, sent him back to the legislature, brought in a new mayor who is now currently on the list to go back to parliament. So what are you really saying to South Africans? Are you saying that you take and listen to what they raise? And the fact of the matter, in the metros, all the metros, Nelson Mandela, City of Tshwane, City of Johannesburg, there was no outright winner. So it's not that the DA got popular mandate from voters. They are in power through a coalition government in all those cities. In fact, they're not the mayor. The DA doesn't run Nelson Mandela anymore.
Okay, yeah, so some really interesting clashes here and differences of opinion. And for part one, I'm going to give each of you one final chance to issue any responses and just close out on why you believe that you have the best to offer, and we'll continue with part two thereafter. So Peter, since we haven't begun with you yet, we'll start with you, and then we'll come to Tasneem, and we'll round off with Siviwe.
Well, thanks. By the way, the experienced people that I speak about who are in the EFF, remember, those people are employed, they are working currently, they are engineers, they are managing big projects as I speak right now. And those are the experienced people I'm referring to. And when I refer to cadre deployment, you might be qualified, but he might be more qualified than you. And when we look at the interviews in many occurrences and occasions, the people who are most preferred are those who are aligned with the party, and that is our point, right? But we are not there. We want to further give confidence to South Africans that the EFF remains the only alternative to them. These two parties, they have been there, and I can tell you, since we have registered that 6% in 2014, we have never decreased at any point in time. The EFF constantly kept on growing, and even today, it is still growing to this moment. And the reason why it grows, it's because it speaks about the issues of students, the issues of people ordinary, right? And if you are not with people, if you are not in touch with the people, you are not going to understand their struggles, which is why we understand very well that there's a problem in the healthcare, right? The South African healthcare is collapsing. You would never understand that if you use a private hospital. You'll never understand that if you are far from these things. We know many lives are being lost because of incompetence of the Department of Health in South Africa. And that must be then dealt with. We look at the EFF manifesto. It clearly stipulates on how we're going to improve the healthcare in this country. You look at I will always speak about it because the issue of jobs is a problem in this country. And we always said, okay, quicker. We have always said 80% of the procurement that is done by the government must predominantly be produced locally. It must create jobs in South Africa for local people. The high schools, primary schools, clinics, hospitals, food that they eat there, they must be produced here on the land that is owned by the state. Yes, just like that.
Thanks a lot. Tasneem, your responses?
Yes, look, every year SRC elections are held in universities, and if young people had so much of confidence in the EFF, they would have continued to vote for the EFF SC, which has not happened, both in this university, Wits. Last night, the student organization aligned to the ANC won back Vaal University of Technology. And that proves that young people, as much as they would have given their mandate to the EFF at some point, have lost confidence in the EFF leadership in such a short space of time. It took 1 year here at Wits University. It took just over 2 years at the Vaal University of Technology. So I think that while they may have had confidence in the EFF student command at some point, they very quickly lost confidence because of the type of leadership that the EFF offers. Again, it's almost as if the gentleman on my right almost seems to want to make a distinction between professionals in the private healthcare system or institutions as opposed to professionals in the public healthcare systems. Yet they are produced by the same universities. They end up at some point in different institutions. So I'm not sure what the argument is about a professional in which institution. They are produced by the same institutions. Again, the EFF contradicts themselves because they argue with the ANC, and I don't think the ANC is at any stage going to apologize for deploying those with professional qualifications and skills and experience to run institutions who are aligned to the ANC, because they must understand and implement the ANC policies and positions. And the EFF is saying that There are EFF members who are currently employed, skills, and they will be given opportunities. So it's the
And
same cadre deployment.
Can I ask you to just round up with your final 30 seconds or so?
Yes, I think, again, the ANC doesn't contradict itself. It's very coherent. We will not apologize for the decisions that we make. We will not apologize for cadre deployment. Where we govern, we've been able to turn back the frontiers of poverty, inequality. Unemployment has also been turned back by policies of the ANC, and we'll continue to do that even for the next 5 years. Thanks.
Thanks very much. And we'll round off this part with Siviwe.
Absolutely. I think both with the EFF and the ANC, one of the things that they have in common is the lack of accountability within their organizations. I mean, we saw with the VBS saga and how the EFF handled that. They have been always quick to try and hold the ANC to account, but actually what you really realize, that was not accountability, but that was because if we were not eating, then we will call for accountability, but when the tables are turned, we won't. And then ultimately, I mean, with the ANC, you see with every single saga and every single crisis in the ANC, there is a lot of scapegoating of professionals and of officials. No one can hold any of their political leaders to account. So the DA difference is very simple. We're good where we govern. We know how to turn institutions around. We inherited R1 billion of a deficit in Tshwane that was literally collapsed to a point where the metro could not deliver any basic services to their residents. We turned that city around, which now has a surplus. And so really the argument about having pulled our mayor is completely false. The reality is that we believe we can govern Gauteng, and that's why Solomon Semanga has to do what he did in Tshwane in Gauteng.
Well, it's just starting to get lit, and part 2 I think is going to be even more interesting, but thank you so much for putting your points of view across, and can't wait to continue this conversation right here on SMWX. SMWX. No young people are around the decision-making table. Let some new voices come to the fore. Follow us on WhatsApp and catch us live Tuesdays and Thursdays. Out with the old, in with the new. SMWX.